Hey, welcome everyone. It's Chris Petri. Thanks for coming by. We're actually going to have a fantastic time. We're going to do some birds today, and we're going to do a duck decoy. This is the finished painting. I hope you'll work from this when it's time to do your watercolor painting. You can work right from this. I'll zoom out just a little bit. There we go. So I hope you'll use this as your guide, as your painting for your washes, your colors, and this is just really a painting that everyone can do. We're going to show you how we actually create a preliminary pencil drawing so that you have a first practice run doing your birds and our duck decoy here. So we do a practice run of our, just a quick sketch, and then once we do that, we draw that onto our watercolor paper. We have some Fabriano, beautiful Fabriano paper here. And so I'm hoping you'll try this. If you've never done birds before, ducks and things like that, it's a great way just to practice a few times. If you do this 2 or 3 times, you paint this painting 2 or 3 different times, anytime you might find that you're going to create a painting with some birds and whatever, from a photograph or from an art book, whatever it is, you'll actually have a much easier time because you practiced it a few times and painted it a few times, and then when you get to it, and if in the future you'll be like, oh, I did this before, and you'll just remember it, and it'll go a lot easier than trying to hash it out from the start, from never having done this before. So I am just really excited. I hope everyone's going to try this out. We'll get started in just a few minutes, and you saw this is the finished painting, so you can again work from this if you want. Once you go through the whole video, then you can come back to the beginning and use this for your subject matter to paint from and to draw from too. It's probably pretty easy to draw from this because you have those really good dark shapes here. Okay, we'll see you in just a second. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll get started. Hi everybody, Chris Petri here. Welcome. Come on in. We're having a great time. We're going to be doing some really beautiful birds on this episode here. We're going to do some beautiful we're going to do a small duck and some shorebirds and a crow, and we're just going to have a fun time. I have various wood carved decoys and replicas of birds I've gotten at local antique shops, and then some out in my travels on vacation and so forth. I always go into the antique shops and see if I could find some decoys. So this is a duck decoy here, and so I'm going to have these set up across from me. So there's the main thing for this episode is you saw the finished painting just a few seconds ago. So work from my finished painting, work from my finished drawings too as well. You just hit pause when I'm done drawing right at that moment. And then once, and then you can work from there. You can, of course, work along with me as we go. It's up to you. I leave it up to you how you want to work out your process when you're working along here on these videos. But this is just more of a real fun, free time to create some birds and ducks and things like that. They're fun to do. And so I'm going to put this in my... I set them across on a table across from me, and I made the table actually really high. So I actually did some innovative, I guess I put some foam board propped up with some wood on a window sill to try to get it up to eye level. So I'm looking at actually the eye level of this. So if you can imagine, I'm looking straight across and I'm seeing at eye level the table like so. So now when I'm drawing these birds and the duck here, this duck decoy and the birds, I'm looking at it in a really kind of a more simple angle. If I was to set my decoys and my wood birds on a table and if I was looking down on a table, it would be a little more challenging, a little more difficult to do the drawings and to do this type of a painting. So I try to keep things at a eye level so that it's almost like a two-dimensional drawing and painting. And what's really beautiful about this is this composition will be very, I guess, like patternistic. It's got a pattern to it. It's all birds and a duck and some birds. You know, it's going to look really cool. It's got some real symmetry and pattern to it. That always looks really good. And so let's get started. The first thing I'll do is before I'm going to draw on my watercolor paper, I am going to start out with some printer paper. And what I'll do is with the printer paper, I'm just going to sketch one time a practice run, just so I can kind of get a feel for the setup I have across from me. So I'm going to look at this and I'll start maybe with I'm going to start with the duck here. And I'll take my time. I'm just going to do a contour drawing. I'm going to take my time and slowly go. And I'm just going to go across. I'm just contour drawing, looking across for me. I look across, I look back at my paper. I keep looking back and forth, so that I'm okay. So I have my duck decoy there. Then I'm going to start over here and look about this way here. And that's about level. That's about level, going straight level like this. So I'm always kind of looking for the angles on this. And you don't be afraid to take your pencil and sort of hold it up to what you're drawing, or so you can always take your pencil and hold it up to what you're looking at. Take your time and say, okay, what's the angle of the bottom of the bird? Oh, it's kind of level. So it's level. Then you come down to your paper and you say, okay, level. That's pretty much straight like that, level. So you check your angles. This duck decoy was a little bit on an angle this way up here. So I kind of capture that. It's a little bit of an angle there. And then this one here this bird is a shorebird, and it's up like this. And then it goes up like that. And it's got to swoop down like that. And this one has a long beak. And then I'm going to go over here. And this one here is, let's see. Okay, so that's right about there. And it's not too far back there when it comes up this way. And then I try to locate the eye. That's always important to the eye and the beak is important to locate those when we're doing some of my wooden replicas don't have eyes. Some do, some don't. So I try to kind of locate them though anyway. This one does have one painted on, and this one here is a little bit. And again, this is just my first run, my first practice. You know, it's always good if you can do this first, do a first practice on a piece of printer paper. You get familiar with the setup that you have, and then it goes a lot easier when you go to do it onto your paper here, your watercolor paper. So this way you've already practiced it one time, just to get the feel for things. You know, in your mind, you'll kind of recall and say, oh yeah, I remember that. I got that angle over there with this or that. So this here is this is one of the stands, the decoy stand. And this one here is over here. Like that. Like so. And let's see, we're over here now. Let's, this one has very little. This has very little. And the great thing about doing a practice run is you can just go right over with darker lines and kind of like, there's very little showing the top of the Decoy pedestal or stand. So that's how I can just do that darker. It doesn't really bother me. And then here we're going to do our blackbird, and I go up like this, and okay, and now I go like that. And then a soft swoop down this way. And then I check my lines and say, okay, I see some feathers on his back, his or her back there, that are just a little bit about the same plumb line as the bottom of this base here. So that gives me a location of where I need to start making that little line there with the feathers. And then the rest of the feathers, the tail section, just goes out like this. Like that. And that's good. Like that. Okay, so look, we got all this completed. I'm also painting into the light. I'm setting my setup here. It's on, again, a foam board, like so. So my foam board is resting on my windowsill over here. So if my window's there, I kind of set this thing up resting on my foam board is resting on top of my window. It's a double hung window, so it's got a ledge on it, the window itself, like that. And then over here I have a, I think I set up a light stand, and I just taped it with some tape so that the foam board wouldn't fall over when I put the decoys on top. So I sometimes will, you know, kind of rig things up in the studio here. You have to sometimes do that. You have to rig some stuff around. I've used boxes, like you can use empty shipping boxes, and you can stack them on top of each other and tape them together, so you can actually elevate some places. You can put, you know, a stand together. You can make like a makeshift stand where you can get some things up to eye level. This foam board that I'm using now, it's a little bit lower than eye level. It's probably about where my shoulders are, so there is a little bit of, you know, I can see the top of this table a little bit. So it does give me a little bit of an angle where I'm looking a touch. There's a little bit of an angle to it, so you can kind of see I'm seeing the top of the table, or the foam board, so to speak. But, you know, you can set things up so you get it perfectly at eye level, so that you wouldn't even see any of the top of the table. You would just see the, you know, pretty much like this. You would just see the top of the foam board, and that's it. And then everything else would be on top like so. So you would see everything just as it is there. So I'm just kind of, that would make it more simple, where you wouldn't be worrying about angles. Here I'm worrying about these angles, the top of the Decoy pedestal, and a couple other spots here too, this one. And you can also leave those out because you're going to be working from my drawing, so it might be easy because you kind of have my drawing to go by, which is really helpful. You can use my sketch, or my preliminary sketch and contour drawing once we get that started. But that's pretty much what we do. We take this scene, we practice it one time, kind of feel things out. Doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to get everything just right. You just try to get it as close as you can. And as you do that, you're going to already be preparing yourself so that when you go in and you do your next preliminary sketch on your paper, and then ultimately your contour drawing, which is another drawing over the top of your preliminary sketch on your watercolor paper, you'll have done it 3 times. You'll have drawn this scene 3 times. This is the most important, because if you do this the first time, then you kind of can just put this up across from you and you can say, okay, now I remember. I drew this the first time, and you have that across from you and you can use it as a reference, and then you continue on. So that's what we're going to do. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll do our preliminary sketch on our paper here, our watercolor paper. This is Fabriano Extra White Artistico, Fabriano Artistico paper, extra white, rough paper, and we'll use this, and we have our standard colors, all of our palette. I use the same palette for the last 10 years now, same colors all the time. I might add a few here and there once in a while, but for the most part, this is my standard palette, so we have that. I'll give this a little spritz, and we'll be prepping up for the painting. So let's take a quick break, though. It's good to take a few breaks here and there as you go, just to rest up a little bit, rest your concentration, and rest your mind, so that when you're coming back in again to do more drawing, you're kind of a little more fresh, and you don't, you're not as feeling a little as tired. Okay, so I'll be right back, and we'll start our preliminary drawing. And I always mention too, please subscribe. That subscribe button right down there below the screen, that red button, subscribe. You hit that. This way you kind of stick with us here each week. You'll get that alert in your YouTube account saying that we have a new video coming out, and this way you can just get right into it, watch it one time, get familiar with it, and then you'll be ready to go. When you want to do the painting, you'll already have watched the video one time. You're kind of more familiar with it. Same thing goes with our sketching. That's what we do with our preliminary drawings and so forth, is we're always trying to repeat things over and over, and it gives us more of a familiar feeling with it, and then we can definitely have more success with it. And always we say that repetition is the mother of skill. The more you repeat things over and over and over, the more your skill level will go way up. So that's what we're trying to do here, is keep repeating things over and over, the same format, the same process, the same techniques. You keep repeating these things over and over again, they become part of your actual style and your techniques as a watercolor artist. Okay, so let's take a break and we'll come right back. Okay, everyone, welcome back again. We're getting started now. We're going to actually, I'm going to make a little bit of a change. I hope you don't mind. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, to make things easier for myself, and maybe this will be easier for you too in the studio when you're painting this, drawing and painting this painting, is I'm just going to essentially, I'm going to take this and pretend that there's no tabletop on this drawing. So when I'm looking across from me, I can actually change a little bit of what I'm seeing. I'm not going to be as critical with capturing this top of this foam board that I'm using to rest all my duck decoy and my wooden carvings, my wooden birds. So what I'll do is I'll just take it like this, and I'm going to make a line like so. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually have this duck resting right on top of this line, and I'm going to pretend that there's nothing that I can see on top of this table. So everything is going to be like this. So I'm going to take this and go like that. Maybe I can do this, and maybe I'm not going to do that. Maybe I'm going to leave it a little more just for design sake. I'm just going to put the line across the page like so, and this line will just come straight down this way. I'm not going to have this in the picture over here. I'm just going to have this line here. That we won't see. So essentially this is what we're going to see. We're going to see all of these. They're all going to be dark tonal values, all the birds here, because we're painting into the light. The light is the window behind us. So we're just going to pretend there's lots of light, so you're just going to see silhouettes. This is going to be the darks. We'll do this in really dark paint, dark tonal values, and the rest will all be light behind. And this will be our line across here, and we won't put any of this tabletop on in the picture. We're just going to leave it more abstract. I hope that helps. I hope it's going to help me too as well. I like to sometimes catch a break when I can, when I'm doing my paintings and drawings. So I'll make things easier for myself. This is one way I'm going to do it. We'll try that and see how it works. But I'll keep the same exact design of where our birds are here, because I'm leaving it set up and I'm working across from me. So I'm going to keep looking across from me but I will refer to this occasionally as I'm going. This did come out, I'm pretty happy with this. These look pretty good. Maybe I'll even use this for my, I'll use both actually. I'll look both at my physical decoys I have set up across from me, and I'll use this as well. So I'll use both of these to create our painting here. So I'll set that across from me. I'll get my number 9. And always remember too, if you have to use a little bit of acetate or plastic, if you want to trace over your electronic device, if you're using a phone to follow along and you want to use some of that plastic acetate with some Sharpie marker to maybe draw out the shapes of the birds, if it helps you a little bit, because birds are a little challenging sometimes with the shapes, how they look. And you know, if you do birds a lot, you know, it's a little easier. Or if you do birds occasionally, you kind of might have a feel for that. But if you don't do birds that much and ducks and things like that, it might be good. You can use some acetate. You put that over your phone and you kind of just draw with a Sharpie. So you could just take this and put this over your computer screen, or you can put this on top of your phone. You kind of can get a feel for things, and then you can just kind of trace, you know, you can trace kind of the shapes of the birds like that, and the duck here. So you can kind of, you can trace over the top of your computer screen or phone, whatever you're using, TV, just to get some ideas. And then you can always transfer that onto the paper. You can, you know, tape this down to your paper. You can tape that down to your paper, and then when you're drawing it, you can just lift up. You can use the shadow. If you have a light above you, it kind of, there's a shadow that's created. I don't know if you can see that. So you can kind of carefully work underneath it with a pencil, like so. And you can work underneath with a pencil with the shadowing a little bit, get a rough estimate of the shape of each of the birds, and then you can just have an easier time when you go in and paint. You'll already have your bird shapes really nice. And again, the thing with doing things with things that can help kind of get you to the next level. If you want to have a beautiful painting of this type of scene, you can use a little bit of plastic, a little bit of tracing paper. You're the artist. You have to figure out how you can kind of do that. Maybe at first you need to use a little bit of, you know, tracing paper or some acetate, some plastic to kind of get you familiar with the shapes of whatever it is, whatever subject matter you might not be familiar with, until you're kind of more, you've done it 5 or 6 or 10 times, and then after a while you won't need to use that. Of course, you kind of already have the feeling of it and the flow of the shapes of things, like let's say birds and ducks and maybe dogs or cats, whatever you want to draw. You just use a little bit of help aids to get you going. And we all use these as artists. I hope everyone's using some things to make your life a little bit easier. Okay, so now I'm gonna just make my, I'm just gonna make the, I'm just gonna put a rectangle on the paper with pencil so I know exactly where everything is. This is my picture frame, my rectangle, everything's there. And then I might just start my drawing along the bottom of my rectangle here. Okay, so I'm going to start out here, and I might okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to start here. just taking my time. I'm going right in and doing a contour drawing. Since we did that first sketch, I feel pretty comfortable. I don't think I'm going to need to do a preliminary sketch. So I'm just going to come right in and start doing my drawing. Okay, I already see, maybe I've... Okay, this is a perfect time. You grab a kneaded eraser, and if you think you maybe started a little bit with an issue, you just do a little bit of erasing. I could have done this again. I should have started with the preliminary sketch, because then usually that avoids that erasing like that. But let's keep going. And we're going to do the back here. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, we're just trying to get the shapes of things, because this is just really cool, having a fun time with this. Okay, this next shape is, I'm looking at the ducks. I'm looking at the duck, my duck decoy here, and I'm saying the stand for the next bird is about 3/4 of the way across the duck decoy's back here. It's not quite in the middle, it's about 3/4. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get that. You can use a ruler here if you feel like you need to, if you might need to use a ruler to keep a line straight, that's fine. I'll use a ruler here. And then I'll just put a light line like that. And I'm going to look at it and say, all right, how far up is this? And I'm going to shorten it up maybe a little bit. And it's about, if I hold my pencil up, so I'm holding my pencil up in front of me like this and looking at the duck decoy, the bottom of this bird is a little bit above the head of the duck decoy. So see, sometimes we have to check our lines like that and check where things are, because I would have started this up here more and then I'd be going out of the picture. Does that make sense? So if you just keep checking, you can kind of get a feel for where things are by looking at, seeing, well, where's the bottom of this bird over here? Well, and I look and I hold my pencil up and I say, well, it's just a little bit above the top of this duck decoy's head here. So that's how I get this line. And then the bottom of this bird here is like so. And what I want to do here is continue with this. I'd rather start this here. Then I can also look and say, all right, where is maybe the head of this bird here? I look down at my duck and I say, okay, if I go halfway on the duck's back, about there, that's where the head of the bird is. So then I can put a line up here maybe, and then I just work my way up like so. And if it's not perfect, no big deal, but at least I get it somewhat close like that. And then we make that round shape there like that, and then we come around this way. And that looks pretty good. And this one has a longer beak, so that looks interesting. So we take that and we make our longer beak here. It gets a little bit thinner as it goes this way. Like so. And then we can put the eye there. It's going to be dark though. These are all very dark. We're painting into the light. Okay. Okay, so that's our second bird. Looks pretty good. Okay. Like that. I just want to get a little more of that roundness to the back. And we can continue now. We're going to start out, and now we're going to start this bird here. Now what we can do is make things a little more simple for ourselves. Across from me, I notice actually we see a little bit of the prop for this bird here, the shorebird. Now we're just going to look at it and say, okay, it's going this way. So the bottom of this bird's pretty much level, like this. So that's important to kind of get those angles if you're looking at the bird's, shape and how it is looking in the picture. You kind of want to see if there's angles to it, or if it's kind of level. This shorebird here it's kind of going up a little bit like this, and it's not too far back. It's kind of foreshortened here, so the tendency would be to draw it really long, but it's actually foreshortened here. And then we come up like so. We make a little bit of a swoop that way. And then this way. This bird's a little smaller, so we're going to and these are wood carved birds, so the people that created these did a beautiful job. And then his beak is here. And we'll just get that a little more sharper. There we go, like that. And then his or her eye is here. And then I can just there we go. So we have 3 of our birds done now. We're going to do the next one here. And again, we'll use our ruler. I'm going to use my ruler here to make our last bird here, our blackbird. And he's about here. So let's do this. We'll make okay, and then I look and I say, where is the bottom of the blackbird that's in the scene that I have set up across from me? Where's the bottom of his breast and the bottom of his body? And if I look across from me, it's about approximately the same height as the head of this small shorebird here. So we're going to make that note and say, okay, we're going to want to start it there. Maybe we'd want to start it a little lower. If we think we're going to go off the page here, which I'm kind of thinking I don't want to have the problem of drawing my blackbird over here and it going off the page and not looking good. Obviously, we want to keep it within our picture frame, so I'm going to start it a little lower. In actuality, when I look across from me, it's the bottom of the blackbird's about the top. But again, does this make sense? We always want to kind of think ahead of things a little bit and say, all right, you know what? I kind of sense I might go out of the picture with this one, so let me just drop the bottom of this bird down a little bit. That's not going to hurt anything. And that's how you can adjust things when you're doing your compositions and things in your paintings. You can always adjust. You don't have to feel like you're exactly have to follow everything you see. You can change things around a little bit. So I'm going to do this and then go up this way. And maybe I'll make this blackbird a little smaller maybe than in actuality. So I'm kind of looking and seeing. And then here I'm going to do the beak. Like that. And then it's a soft turn like that. And it's not perfect. I can always, again, a little bit of an eraser just to kind of, like that. That looks a little better. And then when I come over here, after I go over the top of the head of the bird, then I kind of start to get that feel for the slope of the back of the bird with the feathers, and I think that looks pretty good. And we're going to continue here. It's pretty level across this way, so I'm looking across from me and I'm holding up my pencil and saying, yeah, that's about right. It's about level. And then I just go across like so. And then I start to taper down for the tail feathers of this bird. And over here, I notice there's some noticeable feathers over here that are kind of sitting above the others. And that's what we do. We do that. And we'll just go out of the picture with that. That's fine. And then we'll do our like so. So we have our birds all completed. Now all we have to do is have fun and paint. That's it. So we took some time. It did take us a little bit of time here, but you can kind of see how I just went ahead and did this. I hope you'll do this as you're drawing this scene at home, in your studio, at home, and if maybe you're just have a nice sketchbook on your lap, in your sofa, or your easy chair, however you like to work, at your kitchen table, wherever you like to work. This is really a lot of fun, and it's just a matter of taking our time, checking level lines to see. So if you're going to work, I hope you'll work from this. I hope you'll hit pause and work from this. Maybe what I'll do is I will go over this one more time. Let me go over with a little darker pencil line here, so that if you're going to do this from home and you can just, I'm just going to do this. I'll do this a little darker. I'm just basically tracing over this. And tracing is a great way to kind of re-look at the lines again. And then we're going to go right around here. Same thing, just tracing along the lines we already drew. I'm just making it a little darker so you can kind of see that. If you want to work from this drawing, you'll have a lot easier time. Once I'm finish with the darker line here, it's a little easier to see. I know sometimes the camera lighting isn't the greatest. It's tough to see the pencil lines a lot of times. And I'll use my ruler one more time. Okay. All right, perfect. Okay, we'll be right back. We're just going to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll start painting. And I think I'm going to try to okay, we'll be right back and we'll begin to paint. All right, hey everybody, we're getting back into the swing of things here. We're going to do some painting now, and the one thing I wanted to kind of do here for the painting portion is let's try to use a large brush here. I'm using a number 12 watercolor brush, so a size 12. So I want to use a large brush, and this is going to sort of safeguard against maybe spending too much time and maybe overworking anything. So, and again, we're painting into the light here in this scene, so everything is pretty much darker tonal values, and we're going to leave the background white paper. But again, I want to use a larger brush for maybe the larger portions of the bird, and then the birds and the duck, and then maybe I'll use a smaller brush for the I'll use a couple different smaller brushes maybe for details, but we'll deal with that in a little while. But let's start out with a really large brush here, and we're going to start out with we'll use a kind of a simple color scheme here. Maybe I'm trying to think here what we can use. You know, sometimes we can just take our colors and put them out. Payne's gray, ivory black, that might be our blackbird color. And then maybe, let's see, the other birds here are more kind of wood color. Let's kind of stick with the colors that we have. I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel here. So I'm going to use some raw umber, some yellow ochre, raw sienna, maybe a little cerulean blue. I want to do warm and cool kind of a look. We don't want to just go all warm colors. Let's get some warm and cool. So that's for the more wood colors. They're all wood. I think my duck decoy is like a plastic, or like a yeah, kind of like a composite plastic. But the rest of them are all like really are wood carvings, but they're all different. This is black, the blackbird's black, and then the shorebird's like a tan with a dark brown tail. Let me kind of draw that in there too. I forgot to add that little bit of. He's got a little bit of coloring on his the back, his feathers on his back there, and so we'll do that. And there's a little. I'm going to let that go. I'm not going to put any coloring on the rest. All right, so let's get started. We'll start with our duck decoy. That's a little bit darker. Maybe we'll do some cobalt blue, burnt umber, raw umber. And that should be good. And again, we're not going to try to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to try to. And again, I'm using a large brush here so we can cover lots of ground. There we go. And we have to mix up some more. There we go. And there's a little bit of a line here. And it gets a little lighter, the wash, so we can go over here. We can use some black in that too, darken it up a little bit. So I'm going to kind of mix around my colors. Now the thing is, if you go back in to do a little bit of extra wash on something, you have to do it really fast. Really quickly, like as soon as you get this wash in here, if you're going to add in a little more, let's say darker color, you have to do it right away, very quickly. And that'll be a big thing to help your washes look better. And there we go. Okay. And I'll let this go. I'll do the darker end of the bill of this duck decoy. Once I and again, you can add darker colors. Then I just rinse my brush off and then dry it off on a paper towel or a tissue a little bit so there's not too much water on it, and then I can blend in that darker dark I put in there. Like so. And let's move on to our next. Let's do this one up here. Raw umber. This one's a little lighter. Burnt umber, raw umber. I'll mix a little more because I'm noticing I'm running out of paint quick. So that's why it's another benefit if you have a larger brush on a painting like this, because it's large washes really. So then we add some cool, a little bit too much there. And then let's do this here. Get some paint on there, and then I can just go up like so. And what's great about when you're painting this type of scene, you can get a little more look back at your subject matter. I'm always looking across from me and I'm saying, wow, I can add a little bit of a, I see a curve over here in the feathers a little more than what I was when I drew that bird. So I can add some additional shape to the to my drawing. There we go. And then I just carefully add in that little bit of a, so that looks pretty good. And just add a little couple splashes here and there. And if you see you went over a line, no big deal. Lift up quick, like that. There we go. And let's see here, let's do another. And what I'm thinking the fun part of this is when we use a larger brush like this, you can really go through this really quick, and it becomes a lot more fun because you're not really fussing around too much with too many washes. You kind of just, you mix, you get a feel for it as you're going. You start to notice how much you need to mix in the paint box here. So you notice when I started with too little paint and wash. So now I'm making my washes a little larger in my paint box, so that I can cover a lot of area, and that works better. And then we're going to go over here and we'll do our, so we have some Payne's gray, ivory black, a little bit of burnt umber in there. We're going to get some good nice, don't mix it up too much. See, what's nice about this is you can kind of mix the paint colors just a little bit. Does that make sense? Can you see that? Mix the colors just a tiny bit, but leave every color so that you can kind of see the different colors within the wash. It'll be the same when you put it on the paper. You'll see the different colors as we put them onto the paper. Versus like a blender, just blending, keeping. We keep doing that, we're not going to see any beautiful color variations. So if you want to get those nice color variations, don't overmix things. Just have a fun time. And I'm just going back in some Payne's gray, some ivory black, a little bit of burnt umber, maybe a little bit of cerulean blue, a little bit of cobalt blue, and you can get those great color mixes you want right on the paper. And this is a little bit like this, more of a curve to that, like so. And there's more light on this top. So I'll rinse off my brush again, dry off the water. I don't want too much water on this now. And I'll just have a little bit of a lighter tone up here. And up here it's darker. Payne's gray, ivory black, a little bit of burnt umber, a little bit of cobalt blue. I don't overmix it. I make sure I don't lean into my paint over here. And I just carefully keep an eye on the point of the brush so that I don't go over my line. Then I can spin around this way, and I kind of turn my hip and rest my hip against my art table, so I'm kind of turning my whole body so that I can get this over here like so. Like that. And then I try to smooth this out a little bit. That looks pretty good. Then I'm just going to really carefully try to change up that wash. So I'll put a little bit of this. Looks good. A couple splashes. So I'm just going to do a couple splashes. Not too many, just a few. That's all. I'm going to carefully do this beak of this bird here, and probably see if I could do a couple of our eyes. And again, I'm trying to go quickly here, have fun with it, and not overwork it. And I think we're almost completed here. What else do we need to do? Oh, a little bit of the dark here. A burnt umber and French ultramarine blue. A little bit of Payne's gray and ivory black. A little more burnt umber. It's more of a brownish color. And then I'm just going to carefully put that onto the back here, like so. And I do it very carefully. Rinse off my brush, dry off the paint, and then just get a very light wash here for this. And I think that's perfect. So let's let this dry, but I think this is perfect, actually. This looks great. This is a great study for birds and duck decoys, and you can do this over and over. You can use this. You can look up pictures online. You can work from art books. So there's so many fun things you can do with maybe just painting, drawing and painting lots of the same thing. And if you put that into a painting, it looks great. So if we were to put a bunch of really interesting, let's say, dogs or cats, or maybe houses, or maybe trees, whatever it is. If you paint a lot of the same thing in that one portion of your rectangle here, your picture frame, it kind of looks really good just in itself. In and of itself, it looks really fantastic just doing this type of a study. So I hope you'll do this. Does this make sense to have a good time painting the same thing in repetition? Repetition is a design pattern that really works great. It looks fantastic. A lot of artists use it, and so we're going to use it too. We're going to work on it, try it out. You can come up with your own ideas too, your own creative ideas of how you can use repetition in your artwork. It really does look fantastic. So I'm going to just maybe, I think that's it for right now. This is perfect. I might add a couple darker colors. Let me add in a few things here. This beak on this duck decoy was darker. Like that. And then it's going to dry a little. And again, let it dry. That's when, if you want to do the eyes and some additional washes to the beaks and the bills and what have you, the best thing is to let this dry 100%, and then you go back in, because you can see I'm having problems when I'm adding in colors to these damp washes. They're starting to blossom and balloon and cauliflower out and kind of make a mess. So I'm going to leave it as it is. But we did get that darker bill here on the duck decoy. That looks good. But again, I'll let that dry maybe before I go too much more with that detail. And the rest I think is pretty good. And I hope you had fun, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.